the best way to start your day.
Rise and shine!
David and Friends on WTYM, Katanning.
Welcome back to David and Friends. My friend today happens to be the Director of Finance and Operations for the Armstrong School District. His name is Sam Kirk. Mr. Kirk, thank you for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
This is, I'm going to make this statement, and as soon as I do, we're going to lose everybody because the main thing that came out of the meeting last week was the fact that the Armstrong School District is not going to raise taxes this year. And as soon as I say that, now everybody clicks, okay, they know the essence of the story. But I want to know more about this story. I want to know why that you're not raising taxes. I want to know more about the budget. So this year happens to be the first year we've went over $100 million of a budget in a district this size. So students count going down, but the budget going up. What's going on?
Yeah, this is the first year that the budget here in the district has gone over $100 million. We're a very large district geographically, as you know. We still have 8 buildings, over 5,200 students, 600 employees, 400 teachers, and costs continue to rise. But I think we've done a good job on minimizing those increases each year. But again, the good news was we are going to have no tax increase. And I can attribute that to some of the decisions that are made in the past, one being consolidation. You know, the district chose to consolidate schools, and ever since that point, we've seen our financial position get better, get stronger. We've added to the fund balance because at that time we reduced cost. It cost a lot less to run one building than it did 3. A lot of that had to do with having to employ less people. Since the 12-13 school year, which was prior to consolidation, the district's down to over 50 employees. Nobody lost a job, really nobody was furloughed, but when there's a retirement through attrition, we usually look to see whether or not that position needs to be replaced, whether it's a teacher, custodian, secretary, an administrator. All levels have had, at some point or another, not been replaced, and that has gotten us a lot of savings over the years.
Let's talk about that for a minute because, you know, that was one of the things touted during the consolidation time whenever the district was trying to figure out if that's the direction they were going to go. And, of course, all this savings was touted as being that was going to be the big saver, right? That this was going to save us money, as you just said, from going from all those buildings down to one. But yet the costs and the budget is going up. So how do you, I guess as the layperson who looks at this and says, okay, you're saying we're having savings, but the budget's bigger.
The budget would be even more bigger if there wasn't consolidation. If you still had those 3 buildings and all those employees working those buildings, paying a gas bill for all 3, an electric bill for all 3, having all the employees, the cafeteria workers, you know, the custodians, the budget would be bigger than what it is. It wouldn't be $101 million. It could be $105, $106 million. But we wouldn't have any more revenue. We'd be still at the 99 that we're proposing. And so there would have been a lot of things that would have had to happen from the revenue side, meaning raising taxes to bridge that gap. So it would have been more expensive, more costly to run a district if it was staying at the same size that it was.
So you're saying that even though the costs have went up, but that most of those costs are just the normal things that happen in our lives. You know, gasoline goes up, electricity goes up, whatever. So is that what we're saying?
For example, this year, I mean, we're going up about $1.8 million, which is only 1.8%. That's pretty low percent overall for something to increase. But we have a textbook adoption, science books this year, of $500,000.
When you say textbook adoption, it means
we're buying a new science curriculum, new science series for the entire district. K through 12, new science adoption.
$500,000.
$500,000. The department chairs from the science department, as well as assistant superintendents, Dr. Solosky and Dr. Williams, they work closely with their folks to come up with a recommended series to do this. And 2 years ago, I believe we did math around the same $500,000-$600,000. Every other year, we seem to be doing an adoption, which at one time the district was holding on the books 15, 20 years because financially we weren't able to do so. But now we're able to, because of the financial situation we're in, to add these to the budget. So that's one item, that we're $500,000 for books. And it wasn't in last year's budget because we go every other year.
So the 1.8 million increase, 500,000 is books.
Part of that's books.
And science. Okay.
Our healthcare is going up 8%, and that's roughly between $500,000 and $600,000.
Okay, so now we're up to $1 million.
Special ed, another $400,000 to $500,000.
Why? What's the deal?
A lot with the special ed, a lot of our out of placement cost. We have students have very different needs, whether a regular student or special ed still. But even within our special ed department, We have some students that are sent to maybe the school of the deaf or the school of the blind, where we're responsible as Armstrong School District, as long as they're residents of this district, no matter what their need is, to educate them, and no matter where that is. And we have students that leave the district buildings to go get educated elsewhere that costs a lot of money. So unfortunately, there could be 2 students who move in from somewhere else that has some type of need that we can't maybe take care of here in the building. We have to send them somewhere else, and it costs a lot. So some of those type of things, students, some special ed transportation costs, but that's one of our, it's not, we're not unique. Special ed budgets across the state are increasing, and we're just not getting enough funding to offset those increases. I think our funding's going up maybe $100,000 for special ed, but our budget's going up $500,000.
So now we're about 1.5 of the 1.8 million.
Yep.
So we have $300,000.
Yeah, and I would say the other one is our pension cost, PESERS, Pennsylvania State Employee Retirement System. It's going from 33.29% to 34 something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's almost going up 1%. So if you look at an overall payroll of $40 million, 1% of $40 million is like $400,000. Okay, so add that in there, you're getting right up to your 1.8 million.
This is on 400 employees?
Well, no, we have 400 and some 400, about 11, 12 teachers, and another 150 or so support. So we're getting close to 600 employees.
Okay, and the folks that are in retirement, do you have a number on how many retired out there?
Well, for this upcoming year?
Right.
Yeah, we've had 13 teachers retire, either during this school year or retiring at the end of the year, and we've had another 8 support staff.
Okay, and those positions, do you replace them or?
Right now, we're replacing 10 out of the 13 teachers, and there's probably 3 out of the 8 support that we might not have to replace.
Okay.
But we evaluate that. We have staffing meetings, and we evaluate, especially with the teacher part of it, the enrollment in each building, especially the secondary level, when the students signing up for certain classes, what the class sizes are. We try to keep our class sizes manageable. We don't want too many kids in a class, but also we don't want too few. So there's meetings that go on for staffing. It takes a couple weeks, but right now we're recommending probably not replacing 3 on each professional and support. And again, nobody's losing jobs. These are through attrition, through retirements that we're not replacing.
The budget is the financial footprint. You're able to look at the budget and say, okay, this is where we're allocating resources, that money that we receive, in order to operate the district. And I know that you have been very close to all of the administration, the teaching, the professional staff, to try to minimize that. And some of the board has said, okay, we need to look closer. And you've done that, haven't you?
Yeah, and again, you hit it perfectly. It is a footprint. I mean, it's one of the most important jobs I think our board has, to develop a spending plan to not only take care of our students and our teachers, to provide them with the needs they have to become successful learners, but also to be cognizant of the taxpayers and what the taxpayers can afford. So it is a very important part of the job that the board members have, and it's something they rely on us administration to bring to them good numbers. But yeah, we work very closely with our principals. The principals responsible for their budgets within their buildings, who then work with the teachers. To be honest with you, I think it's about 3.5% of our total budget, so maybe $3.5 million is what I would call discretionary, which we buy books and supplies with. And that's books and supplies for the classroom, that's supplies to clean our buildings, that's supplies for athletics, that's supplies for our arts, our music. So to be honest with you, $3.5 million is not a lot of money out of a $101 million budget. And that's sometimes what, maybe not necessarily board members of the public, sometimes they see and they question us why maybe we're spending this on a certain item. But it's a very small fraction of what we're purchasing. And to be honest with you, if a principal, who they're the educated leaders for their buildings, or let's say a special ed director, they know what's needed in their departments. And typically when something gets to me and it's already been signed off by that educational leader, we pretty much give it the blessing as long as the money's there to go ahead and purchase it.
Mr. Kirk, let's talk a little bit about that $11 million that you basically have left over. You call it fund balance,
Sure.
But to those that are watching today, listening to this on radio, the fact is that you want to have an amount of money set aside in case something happens and is needed. So let's talk a little bit about the fund
Sure.
balance.
I mean, fund balance is same as a savings account, as you and I have. Hopefully we have, in case something would happen, or a rainy day fund, an emergency fund. At one time, I think prior to the consolidation, the fund balance was somewhere around $6 million. Over the last 3 years, we've been able to add to it up to about 11.2.
Now that's the savings that you said that you were seeing from the consolidation.
That is
actually added to the.
That is the difference between revenue and expenses. Revenue has come in higher than what we've spent the last 3 years, and we've been able to take that difference and sock it away in our fund balance or our savings account.
But you're projecting this year the revenue at 99 million, 101 million is going to be your expenses. So you've got almost $2 million there.
Well, it's about I think it's about 1.5 is the difference between the two. To be honest with you, since consolidation, we budgeted that way. But if you think about it, if we come in within 1% of our budget, all right, so we spend 1% less than what was budgeted, that's $1 million. So typically, we've been within 1 or 2% of our annual budget. And by coming 1 or 2%, that you're talking $1 million or $2 under budget, and that's pretty good. But that's pretty close, 1%. So that's why. We might budget 101.2, whatever it may be. We're not going to spend it all because there are some things in there at times that we have some monies set aside for emergencies. For example, like the mold this year, we had that expense, which was about $225,000 to clean up the mold. Fortunately, we have some monies in that budget for types of emergencies that if something doesn't pop up, we don't spend it. So that's how we've been able to come under budget also. But and I think it's important to have a healthy fund balance because, one, with interest rates ticking up, we've been able to invest those monies. And this year we'll make over $400,000 just in our investments. Back in 2016, I think it was somewhere around $27,000. That's all we made because the rates were bad at the time, and our fund balance was lower. But now we're able to get that fund balance. Tax dollars come in September. We invest it because we know what the cash flow needs are of the district. We know when we need to take that money out of our investments. And we've done a really good job on maximizing that interest rate with our fund balance. And like I said, it'll be about $400,000 this year. So look at the difference in just 3 years from $27,000 to $400,000.
I want to talk about this 6-year facilities plan because that had some activity at the meeting with the directors. They looked at that and made some priorities that I know that the administration was listening to. You have a roof at Lenape Elementary, $1.8 million. You have the HVAC upgrades at Dayton Elementary. They talked about the fact that Dayton is not air conditioned, that the kids last year had some real issues at the start of school and probably will at the end of school this year, depending on what the weather looks like. But you're talking about $2.1 million there. New roof at West Shamokin High School at $1.8 million. The replacement of vehicles, $435,000. West Shamokin Field House project, $700,000. District-wide paving and sealing projects for your blacktop, $264,000 roughly. West Shamokin baseball, softball, turf projects at almost $500,000. So you've got all these projects that over the next 6 years you want done. Now, how does that factor into the budget? Because you're not going to do them all next year, obviously. Sure. But I know that priority-wise, it seems like Dayton has the priority, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think as you heard some of the board members last night, I think that's their sentiment that Dayton is a priority. I don't disagree with them. I believe roofs are also a priority. We do have a roof that's pretty much exhausted its 20-year lifespan at Lenape, and it needs replaced.
Buy a few buckets. Huh?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you got to weigh. Is it safe to have rain coming in, or to have a couple uncomfortable weeks of heat in a building? Not saying that one's more important than the other, but we got to prioritize what's happening and when the funds become available. What I like, and I think what's fortunate, is that because we are in a position where we are financially and things continue to improve, we're able to look into the future. We're able to plan. Where in the past, from my understanding, is that didn't happen. There wasn't forward thinking. There wasn't planning because the financial position wasn't as strong, and they're thinking, okay, we just got to survive this year. We got to survive this year. We got some, but that we can't operate that way. Even though it's very important to pass a current budget, I'm now projecting budgets 3-4 years in advance. I'm also projecting, and I say we are projecting these projects that need to be done also. And I want them to know that if we use fund balance, how are we going to pay for these things? So we did present them an option last night on how to potentially pay for them, and I know we discussed it, we want to maybe talk a little bit more about this, and we have an $80 million bond issue that was done in 2010.
Okay, let's go back to that, just because some people, to kind of refresh their memory, but a former board were going to renovate buildings, so they took the bond issue of $80 million.
That is correct.
They did a little bit of work on the buildings, and then...
Yeah, prior to my time, but from my understanding, they did start to do something with the abatement removal and some stuff with some of the floors and things like that,
right.
Yes.
And so then another board takes over, and they decide to move towards consolidation. That money, I think it was $69 million or something that was still left there.
Yes.
that was able to be spent toward the consolidation or the building of the new Armstrong High School. So as that happened, that money, of course, spent on construction, right?
That's correct.
So now is where I need your help, because you're talking about that is there a piece of that or something that's available now to be used, or explain how that happens.
When the district borrowed that money, they did a Build America bond. Okay, and what that was, it was a program that the government was offering at the time to actually encourage, government building, whether it was schools or government or cities, things like that. So the district did this Build America bond of $80 million, and we do get a reimbursement. We get a $1.9 million from the federal government, what we call our BAB subsidy, Build American Bond subsidy. And we get subsidy from the Department of Education on this PlanCon, because the new high school is a PlanCon project. So based on our debt payment, or for a lot of people maybe understand a little better, the mortgage payment we have on that new high school, we get a reimbursement from the state as well. But that bond is now eligibly refunded.
The bond of how much?
The bond of $80 million. The entire amount is eligible to be refunded, just like refinancing your mortgage at home.
Okay, so we can call it refinancing.
Refinancing.
You are now to the point where you could refinance a part or all?
All of it.
All of it.
All of it. And
do you have to refinance all of it?
We do not. We don't have to, but it's currently able to do so. And we looked at it. If we did it now, we don't think we'd realize the savings that we want to realize. So I didn't even present that option to the board at the meeting.
Now, I'm going to go through this with you, so I'll make sure that everyone, including me, understands this. So basically, in refinancing, you have this payment that you're making.
Correct.
So in refinancing, that you would typically refinance because you want the payment to drop.
That's correct.
So the money's, you still had the money there, but there's also the refinancing that basically would then
we take the
give
present,
you more money.
the present cash value, the cash value at the time.
Right.
So there's really three options we could do. Just like you said, we could lower our payment. We could actually lower the term and keep the payment the same if we wanted to. Or what we're obviously looking at is possibly cashing out, but keeping our payment the same.
So in other words, they would give you back, it still would be the $80 million bond, but now they're going to give you back X amount of dollars because you've already paid that,
right.
Let's say the principal, and so now you're eligible, and just like any other finance company that the people would be. And I know that we're trying to simplify this.
Yeah,
so
what they're going to do, what would happen, so for example, if we did it next year, and the market's rates stay the same, okay, because a lot of factors have to happen in the cloud, the stars have to align for this to come true, but right now, based on today's market conditions, if we refunded this bond next year, instead of taking the savings in the payments moving forward, we would take the present cash value of those annual savings, which would be about $5.7 million, we would get in cash. All right, we've identified around $7.8 million worth of projects over the next 6 years. If you waited until 2021, we could get about $7.8 million in cash.
If the interest rate stays where it's at.
If the interest rate stays
so you're gambling.
It could go down, where it'd be even better for us, or it could go up. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it's gambling, because we don't have to refund. I mean, anything we get will be better than what we have now. But based on current market conditions, those are the figures and the numbers we'd be able to realize there.
So you wouldn't have to have more money. Your payment would be basically the same, but you could do these projects, a 6-year project plan.
Well, my hope is that these stay the same. We cash out on this. We don't have to raise taxes to do these projects, because there's not enough fund balance. I mean, you can take everything out of fund balance, then you've depleted your fund balance. So that's one option. It's not one that I recommend. I'm hoping that these stay true and we can use the cash to do this. If not, we're gonna have to come up with some type of maybe hybrid approach, whether it's, a tax increase to, some fund balance, maybe some savings from here. But right now, just based on what the conditions are, we're hoping that these numbers stay true.
How long is this bond issue for? Is it like a 30 year?
It was a 30 years. I believe the last payment's in 2041. I won't be here anymore. But yeah, it's typically about 30 years.
Okay. So you've talked to the board, I'm sure, about this, and generally speaking, do you have any feedback from them as to what they're thinking?
No, to be honest with you, this was the first time we presented this option to them. I knew this was going to be a possibility, so I asked our bond folks, which is Piper Jaffray out of Pittsburgh, to develop some numbers for us based on the current conditions. And I'll be honest with you, last week is the first time I got them. So this was the first that they saw them the other night.
Let's move on to this long-range planning you just talked about a few minutes ago. You said that you're not just projecting next year's budget, but you're actually going a few years into the future, and you're saying that by 2022, 2023, that fiscal year, that you're looking at expenses to be about $107 million. So,
and that is just taking the current year or next year budget, okay, and going with historical trends moving forward. That doesn't take any retirements into place. We don't know what, I can't project that. I don't know what that is. I'm not sure where our next labor contracts are going to fall into place, but just based on historical numbers on both the revenue and expenditure side, we put that together.
Okay. So, as you're looking at this going forward, what decisions does the board have to make over the next few weeks, months, to be able to move into your new fiscal year, which we should mention too that the school district runs from July 1st to June 30th.
Correct.
And so technically they're coming to the end of, just like the school year, they're coming to the end of their budget year, and then they'll start the new budget. So where do we go from here? What do the directors need to be able to do?
This is a preliminary budget. And actually, until we adopt the final budget in June, this is still a work in progress.
So it's not written in stone?
It's not written in stone.
But you did put it up on the website.
I did.
So people could look at it.
I want people
which
to
I
look
want
at it.
to compliment you on that, because many of the municipalities, including one I work with very closely, but that is one thing that they tend to shy away from until they actually have approved it and it's been out there. And you all, at the meeting, you gave me the 57 pages of background material for me to look through. And you also gave the synopsis that the same information you gave to the directors.
Sure.
And I appreciate that, because it helps, I think, the public when they can start looking at this. Is such, talking $100 million. So this is a lot to absorb, whether you're the director or whether you're the taxpayer. So congratulations and thank you for doing that.
I can remember in my interview, and it was Mr. Johnson at the time, and he's still on the board here. He was looking for transparency, and that's one thing that I remember him saying to me, and it's something that I've always done in my career. I've been doing this for 25 plus years at different school districts, and try to be transparent. Numbers are black and white. There's nothing to hide when it comes to numbers. We don't make them up. They're pretty factual, and you can look at our website, and I actually just had them take down today stuff from 14-15 that we put on the budget. People really don't care about that anymore, so I had them. This is already up there. My email is on the website. People can call. Our business office knows the ins and outs of this budget, and any one of us would be more than happy to answer any questions. But transparency is important. There's nothing to hide here, and I think that's something that this administration, this board, has done a very good job at, and they wanted us administrators to be transparent, and we have been.
So what do they have to do over the next few weeks?
Our next meeting is May 13th, our caucus meeting, which is typically where we do a lot of the talking about the agenda items. We will review this. We're not going to go a full-blown presentation again. I will review it with the board again. We'll ask to put that on the agenda for our May. It's whatever our May voting meeting is. I can't remember what the date is exactly.
Monday, I believe, in May.
It might be a little bit. Actually, I think it actually is the 13th. May 13th is the adoption day. We moved it back because it has to sit for 30 days and give me a little bit more time to present it to them. But they will adopt a preliminary budget. Once that preliminary budget is adopted, again, we'll advertise that it's available for public inspection, even though it already is available for public inspection. There is another form that I got to put it on and present it to the board. It's called the PDE 2028, Pennsylvania Department of Education. It's just their budget form, and it's about another 25-page document that actually the board has to see that also. That is what I actually submit to the state when this is final. It'll sit for another 30 days. It can also be tweaked again in that 30 days, and then I ask for final approval in June. And once final approval is done, I submit the appropriate documentation to Department of Education.
I've got about 1.5 to 2 minutes, and we haven't really got into a lot of specifics, but is there anything else in the remaining time that you really want to make sure people do understand?
I've been here for 5 years, and I think there's a lot of really good things going in the Armstrong School District. I mean, our facilities are top rated. We've either built new or we've done renovations to our buildings to make them more energy efficient, more learning conducive, better places for people to come to work. We're hoping that with downsizing the way we have, making our buildings attractive, improving our curriculum, that we're only 40 minutes away from the city, that maybe more people start moving further up 28 and start building some houses here, and we get that enrollment back up, and we get the assessed value of the county, which helps everybody. So if there are ever any new future tax increases, it's spread over more people. Or once our assessed value is not growing, we need growth here to help offset some of the future needs that we have. So I think we have a very good product. Even though we are an educational institution, it's big business. We are selling ourselves. We sell a good product, and hopefully we're turning out some very good students. There's a lot of good things going on, and I don't want this to be the focus. I mean, we are in good financial shape. The community shouldn't be focused on the finances of the school district anymore. They should be focused on the students and our teachers and the great things that they're doing in the classrooms.
Well, you're going to keep track of the finances, and the teachers will keep track of the students.
That's my job, yep.
And the parents. Sam Kirk, today he is the Director of Finance and Operations in the Armstrong School District. And Mr. Kirk, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
Yep.
Radio for your neighborhood. AM 1380 and FM 103.7. WTYM Katanning, Fort City.